Hi writers! Welcome to this next video on another chapter of Natalie Goldberg's book, Wild Mind. This chapter is chapter 13, titled Accept Ourselves. It's a really special chapter and I'm really excited to share it with you. I find it really useful for cultivating our own inner sweetheart that we can access anytime, any place, especially as writers whenever we get caught in that monkey mind cycle of overthinking or questioning ourselves. So this video I'm going to read the essay or the story to you so you can kick back, relax. You can annotate if you'd like or just choose the opportunity to listen and hear the words from Goldberg, the wise advice from Natalie Goldberg. Here we go. I tell students, don't throw out your writing. Keep it in a notebook. High school students especially seem to ball up sheets of paper on their desks as they write. Sometimes I stop and unball one of the papers. Bill's had a date, then his full name scrawled in the upper left-hand corner, then the words, I remember my mother's, and that was it. A whole white page with blue lines wasted. I looked down at his notebook at the page he was working on, date and name in the upper left-hand corner, then I remember my mother's hat. Nothing different but the word hat. The crumpled paper was his hesitation. My guess is if I hadn't walked by and bent low and whispered in his ear, keep going, you're doing fine, don't cross out, don't think. Another sheet of paper, the one he was working on, would also be crumpled. I say keep your writing in notebooks rather than on separate sheets of paper or in loose leaf binders because you are less likely to tear out, throw out, or lose written pages. I say this not so much because I am concerned about the loss of a particular writing, but because it is another practice in accepting the whole mind. Keeping in one notebook the good and bad writing. No, don't even think good and bad. Think instead of writing where you were present or not. Present and connected to your words and thoughts is another chance to allow all kinds of writing to exist side by side, as though your notebook were big mind, accepting it all. When you reread a notebook, and if it has all of your writing, then you have a better chance to study your mind, to observe its ups and downs, as if the notebook were a graph. We need to learn to accept our minds. Believe me, for writing, it is all we have. It would be nice if I had Mark Twain's mind, but I don't. Mark Twain is Mark Twain. Natalie Goldberg is Natalie Goldberg. What does Natalie Goldberg think? The truth is, I'm boring some of the time. I even think about rulers, wood desks, algebra problems. I wonder why the hell my mother gave me tuna fish every day in high school. Then zoom, like a bright cardinal on a gray sky, something brilliant flashes through my mind, and for a moment, I'm turned upside down. Just for a moment. Then the sky is gray again for another half hour or day or 8 pages of writing in my notebook. In rereading your notebook and keeping all your writing in it, you get an opportunity to study your mind. Somehow, in seeing the movement of your mind through writing, you become less attached to your thoughts, less critical of them. We have to accept ourselves in order to write. Now, none of us does that fully. A few of us do it even halfway. Don't wait for 100% of acceptance of yourself before you write, or even 8% acceptance. Just write. The process of writing is an activity that teaches us about acceptance. What did you do for your summer vacation? That one September, long ago, my 8th grade teacher asked my English class to write about this. I began with, I went. Then I thought, oh, Nat, can't you think of a better word than I to begin with, and went? Write a better verb. I crossed out, I went. I wrote. She rode. I crossed it out again. I began again. The family visited, then this summer, then this past summer, then thinking back. Each one was crossed out. What did the first 2 words matter? I could have rewritten them later anyway, but I should have gotten on with it. Next, I wrote that I played softball all summer. Well, that was a lie. Not once all summer did I play softball, but I thought that that was what normal kids did in the summer, so that's what I wrote. I thought it was what the teacher wanted to hear. I also managed to add, it was fun. I had an interesting summer. It was nice. Right off, first rule, don't use nice, interesting, or fun in your writing. It doesn't say anything. The truth is, what I did last summer could be an interesting topic. Uh-oh, I just used the word interesting in the last sentence after saying not to. We can also break all the rules. It's good to know them, but do what you want with them. After all, who made that rule anyway? I did in the last paragraph a moment ago as I wrote. The problem is that no one in school gave us permission to write what really happened. My father sat at the dinner table in his underwear drinking beer and swatting mosquitoes, while I sat on the kitchen floor trying to put together a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle of the island of Hawaii. I mostly ate Oreos. My brother had a splinter in his thumb that he got from the back screen door. No one could get it out, and it became infected, swelled like an elephant. And my mother dyed her hair red and snuck out each night with a man named Charlie after my dad got so drunk he couldn't see. Write the truth, and remember what I whispered in that kid's ear at the beginning of the chapter. Keep going. You're doing fine. Don't think, don't cross out. Develop a sweetheart inside of yourself who whispers in your ear to encourage you. Let's face it. You who have created the editor are also capable of creating the sweetheart, that kind coach who thinks what you do is fine. But what I do isn't fine, you might say to yourself. Says who? The editor. The editor? Have you murdered anyone in the last day, week, month, year, decade? Probably not. Then don't worry about it. Give yourself a break. You're probably a really fine person. Call up the sweetheart and let him or her give you some compliments. For this discussion, along with engaging in this reading of accepting ourselves, we are embracing and creating on paper and in writing our own sweetheart. That's what this try this writing activity is for. Try this. Okay, let's get back to the sweetheart, that person we're going to develop and give form to inside us, whose only job is positive thought. Not Pollyanna thought, honest, positive thought. Nat, I'm proud of you. You wrote for 3 hours this morning, says the sweetheart. Nah, she sat at her desk for 3 hours. Pull it all together. She wrote for an hour. She daydreamed for the rest of the time. The editor or critic moves in to counteract the sweetheart. The sweetheart retaliates. Pay the editor no mind right now. She's a sourpuss. Believe me, if you write only 1 page a day, that's 365 pages a year. That's a novel, responds the sweetheart. Write for 10 minutes, giving the sweetheart a voice. It can be male or female, you decide. It's a mother, a grandfather, a teacher, whoever was a positive force in your life. Better yet, put them all together in the sweetheart. Throw in Superman too, and Buddha and Harriet Tubman. Give that sweetheart power, muscle, courage, but don't make him or her belligerent, wasting time scrapping with the editor. The sweetheart has skillful means and wisdom and knows that to fight with the editor is to get her hands stuck in tar. But I don't believe the sweetheart when she tells me good things, you say. Well, start practicing believing it, even if you don't believe. Go ahead. Take in that compliment, even if it's going to kill you. Why believe criticism more than positive feedback? We've been conditioned to respond to negativity. I have a friend who is startlingly beautiful. It took me a year of knowing her to realize and digest the fact that she was self-conscious about her looks and rarely felt okay looking. In fact, she felt ugly most of the time. She was an incest survivor, and her father continually made her ashamed of her looks while she was growing up. She gave his words more validity than the flesh and blood image reflected in the mirror. Her father's words distorted reality. This is what the editor does too. The editor says, "You're a bad writer," and we believe her. There's no such thing as a bad writer. There's just a writer sitting at her desk, practicing, putting down her thoughts and memories, visions, stories, and impressions. Go ahead. 10 minutes. Write. The editor has already had too much power. Give the sweetheart a voice. Have fun with your free write. Use a cluster or mind map if that is a way that you like to flesh out ideas, if we haven't already done that together. Enjoy. Cultivate that sweetheart, because you can access her or him or shim or harem whenever you want.